Hey guys, I'm Randy Unger, and this is another edition of Unger the Radar, where we talk all things film. And today is a little different. We're going to just talk about our favorite movie franchises to watch during the pandemic, and overall, just franchises that we just know and love and will never, ever get tired of. So right now, I want to introduce my lovely panel of guest critics today. We've got Mr. Phillip Buckley. Phillip, hello.
Hello.
Welcome, welcome. Your first time. This should be
Yay.
fun. And Mr. Kevin Mosquera from Springfield. How's it going?
Awesome. Just hanging out with Mo.
Awesome. How is Mo tonight?
Depressed as usual.
Oh, no. That wasn't a bad impression, actually. And we've got Mr. Jason Koenigsberg. Welcome, sir. Welcome back.
Hello. Yeah, this is my first time since we did our Best of the Decade show.
Yeah, that was a while ago, but that was a good show.
It was late December. I think the last weekend in December of 2019.
It feels forever ago, but
It was a while ago.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
It's been going.
Welcome back.
Yes.
Kevin, do you remember what we reviewed last time you were on? It was a while as well.
I'm trying to think. It was a horror film and then a thriller about some form of Uber.
Oh yeah, that was
movie.
pretty bad. Yeah. Forget the title, but
Was it Stuber? Because that was supposed to be funny, but it was scary how bad it was.
yeah, that was actually better
Oh.
than this one. That was better than
Oh.
what Kevin's referring
Oh,
to.
that was really.
What
It
is
actually
called?
it was on my to watch list.
Yeah.
Stuber was awful.
Yeah.
Let's hope they don't make a franchise out of that. But
No, and how can they make? I like Kumail Nanjiani, and I like.
I know.
Batista. They were
I'm
just
looking forward to the Lovebirds.
Oh, that movie? Oh, I didn't see that movie. It was bad?
I just saw it a couple days ago on HBO because that's what I'm doing. There's nothing to do but watching good movies and bad movies.
Exactly. And so, Phillip, what have you been watching lately during the pandemic?
I watched a lot of random things on Netflix. The last thing I just watched was on Netflix. It was a show, but Kelly, what's her name from the Mindy Project?
Mindy Kaling.
Mindy Kaling, yeah, she has
Okay.
a new show on Netflix. Really funny.
Was it good? Okay.
Never Have I Ever. I really liked it. That was funny.
All right. Yeah, I've
John
seen it.
McEnroe does the voiceover in the entire series. It's hysterical.
The tennis player?
The tennis player, yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay.
Yeah. it's
Evan,
funny.
what have you been occupying your time? What shows? What movies?
I think I've actually been going the show route.
Yeah.
Figure, let me see things that I could just see in one shot that I never had the opportunity as a child. So I was binging a lot of Disney Plus. Just finished the Gargoyle series.
Nice.
Something that I saw as a kid, but never in order because,
Right.
as a kid, you never were committed to that. But now I can actually see how the storyline's fleshed out.
Yeah.
Underrated, I think. But
Well,
yeah,
for
we'll
people
see
who
what's
don't know,
next.
Kevin and I grew up together. We met in what? We were like 1993. We were what, 8 or 7 or 8?
You
we've
say
known each
8,
other-
I say 6.
Yeah. We have
Somewhere in
different
between, right.
interpretations of when we met. But I know you were a big Gargoyles fan. I was more the Batman route. But
Oh, well, that's one of the best superhero animated series ever.
indeed.
But basically, if I can binge a show in order, I'm a happy boy. Now I can finally understand the way the story is supposed to be.
All right. Good to know. And Mr. Koenigsberg, what have you been binging or watching?
Girlfriend and I have been cooped up. We're watching True Blood now. I've never seen it before. She's seen it. We just watched Unorthodox a few nights ago on HBO.
Oh,
I
never saw that.
Yep.
I'm sorry, that was really good.
Okay.
I rewatched. She had never seen The Sopranos, so I rewatched that in its entirety. That was fantastic. As I remember, it's still probably my favorite show, along with Breaking Bad.
Mhm.
What else have I seen? And then just a lot of random movies here and there. I saw one of the worst movies. I mentioned Stuber before, but I saw Hustlers with Jennifer Lopez. I
Oh,
see that in theater.
That is
And
a bad movie.
if I saw that in theaters, that would have been my worst of 2019.
Really?
Because that was it takes a special movie to offend me, and that movie offended me because the moral of that movie is all white men who work on Wall Street are bad. so they can be robbed and drugged, and who cares? And it was just
By the way, like, spoiler alert, like,
it was the reverse racism and the reverse sexism that just absolutely, I couldn't believe that got good reviews. I'd rather watch Showgirls as a guilty pleasure.
I heard J-Lo was like snubbed for an Oscar, or am I imagining? I heard
should not. She looked great.
It's the best part of a really bad movie.
Played the part well, but J-Lo hasn't given a good performance. I liked her until she, her career started to switch when she.
I don't even think I've ever seen a good J-Lo movie. Maybe what?
Well, there goes my franchise picks. No, I'm kidding.
She was outstanding in Out of Sight. She was outstanding in Selena. I mean, even looking back at like a stupid movie like Anaconda, before she fell in love with herself, she was a very talented actress, and it all just went downhill once she went the Madonna route.
Well, she's a diva, so it kind of just got to her head. So that's about it.
I always thought Jennifer Lopez was kind of like the middle of the road. Like, she does everything.
The racist, sexist script was the problem.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry, Philip. What?
No, I always thought Jennifer Lopez was kind of just like, she does everything, but she just does everything like just okay. She's an okay actress, an okay singer.
I've never been impressed by a performance of hers.
Out of
really?
Sight?
No, I would say Selena. You mentioned Selena. I would have put that one as a top.
That was what, 23 years ago?
You weren't impressed by her in Out of Sight?
I mean, I liked Out of Sight, but Selena hit her.
But I wasn't like, wow, she deserves an award or anything. But.
I thought she was Selena. You weren't impressed by her in Selena? No other actress in the world at that time could have played that part.
Yeah.
No, Selena made her.
She used to be a lot better than she is now, babe. That's really the point. And it's a shame.
But Selena's pretty much, that's her wheelhouse right there, singing and dancing. That's.
Wow, I didn't think we'd go into J-Lo's filmography tonight. This is interesting. All right.
Now, Made in Manhattan. No, I'm kidding.
I liked her in Super Bowl, though. I thought she was good in Super Bowl.
Yeah.
I don't think I saw that.
Well, back to stuff that we're binging and watching during the pandemic. Right now, tonight after this show, I'm probably going to watch a little more Better Call Saul.
Haven't finished it yet?
I've only seen the first season. I'm rewatching.
Oh, it's fantastic. Yeah. Oh, I'm all caught up on it.
I got to watch this season.
I want to see where Jimmy McGill, how far is Jimmy McGill going to go for success and love and acceptance?
I'm not going to ruin anything. I'll just
say, please don't.
When you're caught up, then text me. Okay.
Yeah, sure.
So,
Kevin, are you a Breaking Bad Better Call Saul fan?
I am. I will say it's one of those things I came late to the party on, so it was definitely after it all was done. But to be honest with you, now that I'm trying to watch Better Call Saul as it airs, I kind of like the idea of waiting till it's all said and done.
Yeah.
Seeing Breaking Bad nonstop was one of the best viewing experiences I could say I've ever had. If I had to wait with all those gaps between the seasons, I'd be frustrated.
And Better Call Saul, it has all that humor in it that I really wanted from Breaking Bad. But I'm not saying Breaking Bad was dull or uninteresting. Better Call Saul is like slightly tweaked version of it. And I don't know. I'm really invested in all the characters, even Kim Wexler.
You wait till you see what happens with her. Okay, wait till you see what she's becomes a much more interesting character.
At first, I was like, she's just kind of a pretty face. I don't really think she's that much.
Yeah, I didn't understand why she was falling for Jimmy or why she would put up with all his crap.
Yeah.
You understand why by the end of the most recent season, and it's glorious.
All the pieces are coming together. I love it.
Come together well.
Yeah. All right, so let's switch gears to movies, guys. Favorite movie franchise ever, or should we do top 10?
I did rank
20, so it's up to you guys.
I know. I read your article.
Thank you.
I listened to it anyway. I listened to the audio portion of it.
You listen? Okay, thank you.
It was very.
A lot of my friends ask them, do you listen or do you read? Most of them tell me that they just read the articles. They say it's easier. But then I know one friend of mine, when he was commuting to work on the subway, I don't know if he does that anymore, but he would say, yeah, you got to do that. I love listening because he can't just, read, just puts his headphones in.
Yeah, no, listening is a lot easier for me. It's just more convenient, and so, well,
thank you for listening, Randy.
Yeah, Philip, you're new to the show. What would you say is maybe like your favorite movie franchise that you could like watch anytime, never gets old for you?
The one that, as I gotten older, I think is my favorite now is probably Back to the Future.
Nice.
Yep. That's become like, And the more you watch it, it's like it's so good. It's still so good.
Yeah.
That's a classic.
It's
a testament. There's a testament to that movie because that will never be remade. It will never be rebooted. They're not going to add a fourth one. It's a trilogy. It's 3, and it's perfect. And the odds of them touching that are like the odds of them touching Citizen Kane. It really is.
Honestly, the reason why maybe it's because they've never done nothing with it. They just left it alone with the trilogy. And everything else was kind of like...
I wish they did that with Indiana Jones and Die Hard and maybe a few other trilogies.
Die Hard, too.
Yeah, he turns into Superman or Super Dad.
After Die Hard with a Vengeance, I stopped caring. I mean, there was a gap of 12 years between With a Vengeance and Live Free or Die Hard. I was so excited to see the fourth one.
So bad.
And it was like
the last one was terrible.
How bad it was. It was a terrible movie. But yeah,
I knew it was trouble when we were casting. They wanted Britney Spears to play his daughter in Die Hard.
Did they really? Oh,
yeah. They did. Then Die Hard 4 is still better than 5.
Yeah.
Well, who was it? It was Lena Headey. Not Lena Headey. Who am I thinking of?
No, I don't remember who.
Winstead, right? From Cloverfield Lane. What's her name?
Maybe I saw that movie once, and I never want to. I don't want to think about it.
It was okay.
Timothy Olyphant, who's usually a good actor, he was a horrible villain.
Maggie Q was good in there.
Another
Kevin
franchise
Smith
that
was in there acting. He was horrible. It was a bad movie.
Well, Oliphant was he was. I don't want to give away spoilers for Scream 2 because Kevin.
So
you're going to find this interesting if we're talking the Scream franchise.
Wait, there's a little backstory here, Jason, that you're not familiar with. Back in 2000, I actually accidentally revealed who the killer was in Scream 3 for Kevin right here. And he will never let me live it down.
No.
I wouldn't be too upset with him for that because that was the worst of the 3 of the movies. So
I thought 4 was pretty crappy.
I thought 4 was the best.
Really?
I was surprised how much I enjoyed 4. 4 to me was what a lot of people praise Wes Craven's New Nightmare and what Wes Craven did.
New Nightmare, great.
I found that movie to be just dreadful. I really didn't like New Nightmare, but he kind of did the same kind of thing a little bit with Scream 4, and I actually liked what worked with Scream 4. I've only seen it once a while ago.
Yeah.
And I remember, maybe because my expectations were so low, I remember being really impressed by Scream 4.
Well, it was like 15 years after part 3, right? So
I don't know
that energy,
but it was definitely
2000 was 3. I don't
They're
know.
rumored to have another one come out, right? I think that's
I
about it.
know they did an MTV show. I know they did.
That was Lucy Basin. Was that canon to the movies? The series?
I don't think so.
I don't think they were connected to the movies. It was like its own thing, just with the costume.
Yeah.
I think Kevin Williams, who wrote the movies, I think he was a producer. I think
of Dawson's Creek fame.
Of Dawson's Creek. Yeah.
Nice.
I'm not too sure.
Kevin, what's a film franchise that just pops into your mind right now?
Well, I'm always going to agree with Back to the Future. I was kind of putting on my hat of what's a film franchise, at least go back to the original topic of what's great for a pandemic. Where's there a franchise where you can forgive a potential bad film? Because very few franchises are perfect. I needed inspiration during this pandemic. I went with Rocky. Because I can forgive 5. Because so many of the films, I can forgive 5 because I think there's enough good in Rocky.
I think I've only seen like a handful of them. Just the first one, maybe the 4 was with Dolph Lundgren. And I think it's a Creed and maybe Rocky 5 and Rocky Balboa. But I just remember, obviously, the first one, iconic. So
yeah. The first one's the best. You could argue that's the best sports film of all time. I have some friends of mine that are missing sports, so I also recently did my best sports movies of all time, and Rocky is the best boxing movie, but I also think it's the best underdog story. It's the best sports movie. I mean, the original Rocky is the quintessential. That set the blueprint that many other sports movies have tried to follow, and most come up short with the greatness of Rocky. So
I'll tell you, Hoosiers and Rudy really stick with me.
Rudy is a great football movie. Rudy, I think, is my second or third favorite football movie. My number 1 football movie was Any Given Sunday.
Okay. Oh, that's a good one, yeah. Any Given Sunday.
Showed the world that Jamie Foxx could really act. He was more in Living Color and Booty Call, and he's really.
And that was That was before Collateral, right? 'Cause it's pretty good. in that.
Oh, it had to be.
The first movie where everyone was like, "Wow, who is this guy?" It put Jamie Foxx into the A-list, and then he did Ali. Then
Ali is the next. Yeah.
Then he did Ray, and then he won, and now he's Jamie Foxx that we all know.
Yeah.
So
Collateral and Ray came out the same year. I know that
He did because he was nominated for both supporting actor in Collateral and won Best Actor for Ray.
Right. Mm-hmm. And around Any Given Sunday, that was around the time he did the Jamie Foxx show, if I'm not mistaken.
Possibly. That I'm not sure. I know. I'm a big Oliver Stone fan, and I always say that was Oliver Stone's last good movie.
Yeah.
Since then, that was 1999. Since Any Given Sunday, it's been 20 years of not so good from Oliver Stone.
Yeah.
Oliver Stone. Hey, he's an acquired taste, Oliver Stone.
He definitely is, but when he's good, I mean, Platoon, JFK, Natural Born Killers, those are some outstanding.
Born on the 4th of July.
Born on the 4th of July, Tom Cruise's best acting, without a doubt. So,
Agreed.
yeah. So, yeah.
So what do you think makes a franchise? It has to be more than three
wait,
films.
I didn't get to do my franchises
Oh, I'm
yet.
sorry.
Yeah, okay. All right. I did my top 20 franchises. You could check this out at panandslam.com. My number one favorite franchise, the only franchise that I own every single movie to. By that, I mean 3 or more if it's more than a trilogy in a box set like that. James Bond. That to me is the ultimate escapist, fun franchise that I absolutely love, living vicariously, traveling the world, the gadgets, the guns, the women. So, and yes, there have been a few bad ones in there, License to Kill being my least favorite. But, I mean, I think the Connerys, the Daniel Craigs, a lot of people make fun of Pierce Brosnan. I love the Brosnan.
You know,
it's my first.
So that's the one that I
didn't love Live and Let Die.
I could never get tired of watching James Bond. Even if they're bad ones, even like Octopussy, I could still watch that over and over and enjoy.
I think Live and Let Die might be my least favorite, and You Only Live Twice.
Let Die. It's got a good theme song. Okay, good point. Not the greatest Bond. Good theme song though.
Yeah, no, most of them have really good theme songs.
Yeah, even the lesser Bond, like I said, License to Kill. That's the one. Michael Kamen, one of my favorite film composers. He did that. It sounds fantastic. Yeah, so all the Bonds, even the worst Bonds, still have something redeeming about them.
Something.
So it's funny you talked about that. I was just saying, it's funny you mentioned that because that actually was one of the franchises I said you want to go lighthearted in a pandemic, you want to laugh. Austin Powers took so much from James Bond, even its worst movie, probably Goldmember, still pretty good, but there's that entertainment value because there's something about that archetype, that type of character. Yeah,
the other night, a few friends of mine and I, we did like a Zoom conference like this, and we had Netflix, and we all watched Austin Powers, the first one together. We synced it up and paused it right so we could get all at the same time and not hear an echo. And it was funny. And I mean, even all these years later, that movie could not be made today, which is sad. Too politically correct for Austin Powers. But it's if anything, I think I appreciate it more older than I did when I was younger and saw it. I always liked James Bond, but just a lot of the jokes, some jokes may have gone over my head the first time I saw it, and now I'm just like, wow, this is.
I was 12 when it came out, and I think I rewatched the VHS like numerous times. I didn't like Spy Who Shagged Me as much as Goldmember. Actually.
No, it's definitely not as good.
Yeah,
Heather Graham had a crush on. She's gorgeous, but that was about it.
I think that's the weakest of the three.
I definitely.
Has there been talks of Mike Myers going back to that world, or?
For years.
Not that I know of.
No. Love Guru killed that.
The Love Guru killed that. Yeah, I mean, you know what? He never needs to work with all the Shrek money and Wayne's. The guy has 3 franchises under his belt: Shrek, Wayne's World, Austin Powers.
Yeah.
I don't think he needs the money, so it's. I guess it's up to him.
And then he turns up in random roles where he plays a British guy. Like
Bohemian Rhapsody.
Bohemian Rhapsody.
Yeah, that too. Yeah.
Did anyone see the movie 54? He had a good supporting role in the movie.
Oh, yeah.
That's pretty good. Yeah, I'll give you that one. That's a random one. That's kind of obscure.
Jeff Campbell.
He shows up in random movies, like you said. Yeah. A random movie.
Inglourious Bastards. He's in that movie, too.
Inglourious Bastards. He was in that. Yeah.
Nice.
A little stunt cast.
He's always British. Isn't he Canadian?
Yep.
He's Canadian. Yeah.
That's hilarious.
So let's switch gears to Inglourious Bastards. Thank you for mentioning that. We've got Quentin Tarantino has a universe.
I mentioned that in my article. Yes.
Exactly. That's where I'm going with it. But they're not sequels.
Okay.
They are connected. So guys, what are some of your favorite, Jason,
Universe.
what would be your all-time favorite Tarantino film?
My favorite is still his first one, Reservoir Dogs. If I had to pick my one favorite movie, a lot of people would say Pulp Fiction, Inglourious Bastards, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. So many people, I still have to see that movie again. I loved it in theaters. I need to see it again.
Yeah.
But Reservoir Dogs is the one that I think that absolutely is my favorite Tarantino. My least favorite, for this article, I describe each film series. And then I say what must see, and for me the must sees are Reservoir Dogs, Pulp Fiction, Inglourious Bastards. Absolutely, I think those three encapsulate his career the best.
Yeah.
And then the one you can skip, all of his films, even like the James Bond films, even his lesser films, they still have something so important and make them worth watching. But my least favorite Tarantino, I would say, is Jackie Brown. That's the one time I think he overindulges. If you take 30 minutes off, I think it would be a stronger movie. But I mean, kudos to Pam Grier and Robert Forster in his Academy Award nominated performance. They're excellent, and the performances carry that movie more than anything.
The most memorable aspects of Jackie Brown for me are definitely Samuel L. Jackson and his ponytail on his chin. His goatee
choice.
And the gorgeous Bridget Fonda, of course, very sexy in that movie as well.
Beautiful in that, yes. Married to your favorite composer.
Yeah, Mr. Danny Elfman.
I wish she acted more. I wrote an article about her years ago, how I wish she didn't give up acting when she did, and still did a little bit more.
I mean, I never really thought she was that much of an actress, to be honest with you. Late class.
Did you ever see The Simple Plan?
Yeah. Oh, that was
She should have gotten an Oscar, at least a nomination for A Simple Plan.
I just remember Billy Bob Thornton in that being the most memorable.
And Bill Paxton. I like that movie more. I see that movie was the modern treasure of the Sierra Madre.
The only other Bridget Fonda movie I can think of is Kiss of the Dragon. Do you remember that movie?
And that was her last movie. I didn't realize that was going to be her finale. Yeah, she hasn't done a movie yet, to the best of my knowledge, since 2001 or 2002. When that came out. Yeah, and it was pretty generic, a generic kung fu jet li movie.
Kevin, do you have a favorite Tarantino film?
I'll agree with Reservoir, but if I couldn't go down that route, Kill Bill. I'm a big fan of action movies. I mean, he adopted so many of those styles. It's both of them.
Yeah.
One and two.
Good dialogue, good action.
The scene where she's in the coffin in part 2, where she's trying to get out. Oh my God.
That scared a friend of mine who's claustrophobic. Yeah.
I can imagine. You lose your mind in a situation like that. I think for me,
Lucy Liu has a brain.
Who would have thunk it?
And the whole Superman analogy. Think about how ahead of his time Tarantino was with Keith Carradine or David Carradine giving that speech, about how you're Superman and how he's so different than all the other superheroes. I never, stopped to think about that. And it's like, wow, what a, deep, thought-provoking speech in a kung fu movie. So,
what do you guys think of The Hateful Eight? It's a little long, but packs a punch.
I liked it a lot. Yeah. Good Samuel L. Jackson, really good Jennifer Jason Leigh, Kurt Russell.
Bruce Dern, perfect.
Bruce Dern, yes.
Yeah. Kevin disagrees.
Yeah, I walked away from that movie thinking it was just a little too long. It dragged for me.
Okay, and I felt that way about Jackie Brown. All of his movies. I even think parts of Pulp Fiction. People hold Pulp Fiction up on a pedestal. I think that middle act with Bruce Willis trying to get the watch back, it could have been trimmed down a little bit, but it's still, the good outweighs the bad in all of his movies.
Oh yeah.
There's a cut on Netflix that broke it down, took a miniseries.
Oh,
that's really good.
Yes. Yeah.
Really?
Mm-hmm. That's probably the easiest way to watch it, because it is a really long movie. Mm-hmm. But I like the
still not as long as The Irishman.
No. Irishman took me I think it took me longer to finish than The Hateful Eight.
But hey, it ended up being rewarding. When I first saw it, I was like, okay, I could have done with that. But then certain things started resonating with me, and it ended up being one of my favorite movies of 2019. So give it a rewatch. If we're just kind of lukewarm to it at first, give it a rewatch. It's really, really good. So.
Now, how about superheroes? Favorite superhero movie franchise? Bill.
Wow. Favorite
I know mine.
Well, I guess, man, I don't know. That's a
The,
hard
the,
one.
the Christopher Nolan Batman movies, just
Those-
that trilogy.
Dark Knight
Those are
trilogy, yeah.
probably the best.
That would be, for me, it would be Batman Begins, Into the Dark Knight Rises. There's no fat I would trim in it. Is it perfect? No, but it's pretty close. So I would say for superhero franchises, since it's only, if you're looking at it as 3 movies,
Yeah.
less of a chance for continuity errors. Like, I love the X-Men movies, but there are so many plot holes and so many
Yeah.
they tried to fix mistakes they made, and they did that, and that's what I loved about Days of Futures Past. But for me, it's definitely the Christopher Nolan Batman movies. That's another trilogy movie series that's really close
I'll
to
tell you, no. Batman Begins and The Dark Knight are pretty much masterpieces. I could have done without The Dark Knight Rises. I mean, I saw it once. Maybe it warrants a second viewing, but
Yeah, but The Dark Knight was so good. Heath Ledger was so good that it's kind of like, trying to, not everything could be Empire Strikes Back, which I'm looking right behind you. Okay, not everything could be The Godfather Part 2. So it wasn't quite on the same level, but I still think it's a good movie. I think Tom Hardy is good as Bane. I mean, I think there was a few things that, in the script that weren't the greatest, but I was still impressed with it enough.
So I got to say, I agree with you, Batman, amazing series of films. But, when I first default and somebody tells me superhero movie, I need a little bit of camp. That's when I tend to lean more towards the Marvel route.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't say it's a true trilogy, but I like the Captain America set. You get a variety in all those 3 movies from the MCU. You get a standard superhero, origin story. You get some spy stuff going on with Winter Soldier.
That was my favorite.
And then Civil War. You just get
Winter Soldier's a great movie. It's probably their best MC solo movie.
Yeah.
The Winter Soldier.
So good. Yeah. Winter Soldier.
Other than Guardians of the Galaxy, the first Guardians of the Galaxy.
That's probably the most enjoyable
I'll flip it. I gotta go Winter Soldier 1 for me.
Okay. Those are probably 1 and 2 for me of the MCU, the official MCU.
Yep.
Well, I like Guardians because it kind of changed everything. Look how much better Thor was.
Spider-Man. Some of the maybe the Tom Holland Spider-Man movies.
I can't stand those personally. I'm tired of seeing Spider-Man as a kid. I'm tired of seeing. I feel like they took what was already family friendly, the Spider-Man movies with Tobey Maguire and with Andrew Garfield, which are both fine. They have their faults. They have their detractors. But then they took the same thing. And it's like they made it for 7-year-olds. I felt like they really dumbed it down and made it more kid-friendly. And it was because because it's Disney, but it was already kid-friendly. It was already, and so I just can't. I don't embrace the Tom Holland movies the way other people have. And because I didn't see Hustlers in theaters, I called the Spider-Man with Jake Gyllenhaal, Far From Home. I called that the worst movie of 2019.
Ooh,
because there was nothing. You guys watch Rick and Morty?
Yes.
Okay, remember the Rick and Morty, I think it's called M. Night Shyamalan Aliens, okay, where it's a simulation in a simulation. Whenever something bad happened, they could just say, oh, look, it was a mirage. It was a simulation. It didn't really happen. That is one of the worst script, get out of jail free cards. I couldn't forgive the movie for that. I just thought it was so stupid, and I checked out.
Yeah,
I'll say this. I think the Spider-Man MCU films, not perfect as much, and I am biased when I look at Spider-Man. I'm going to say, though, best Spider-Man performance is Tom Holland. If you could just appreciate what he does with the character. I know you want to see him older.
I think he took it and made it for a younger audience. I don't understand why they went that route. I thought Tobey Maguire was fine. I thought Andrew Garfield, I was reluctant, and Amazing Spider-Man 1, I got to say, from a filmmaking standpoint, it was good. The second one was trash, but the first one, it was unnecessary. We didn't need to see the origins of Spider-Man again, but I still enjoyed it as a movie. This was the same thing again, and but like I said, toned down, watered down.
But when you do with superheroes, you need a duality. I mean, Tobey, I think, was a great Peter Parker. Garfield was, I think, a great Spider-Man. I think Tom Holland did both sides of it. Same thing the Batman you have. Bruce Wayne,
I don't know.
Batman
I see a kid. I'd see Spider-Man for, if I had a son, I think it would be more for him than it is for me.
Yeah. Well, that's Tom Holland's Spider-Man is part of a greater universe than the other Spider-Mans.
Yeah.
So you got to fit him in a put them in a box, I guess.
So then I guess as its own movie, it's not as good as the Tobey Maguire standalone movies.
Probably not, because again, those movies fit into a greater scheme.
See, and I guess the critic in me, I prefer movies that stand on their own rather than just rely on, oh, this universe, this all that. And I respect what Marvel did, and it's amazing. They, in 50 years of James Bond movies, they made about as many Marvel movies in 10 years.
Oh, yeah.
So I respect them for the plan and for pulling it off the way they did. I just didn't love the cookie cutter approach because I feel like they're all clones of Iron Man 1. They saw what worked in Iron Man 1 and they duplicated it over and over and over again. And then DC went the dark route, and that hasn't worked out for them since Christopher Nolan left. So people love Joker. I wasn't crazy about Joker, but they're trying to go the anti-Marvel Disney route, and it's just, I mean, I personally am not a fan of either universes right now. So
I would say, like you said, though, the DC, like those Batman movies, as great as they are, they kind of screwed them over for the future because
they were so good.
They were so good, but then they try to piggyback on that, but it didn't really work what they were doing. They're going in a fantasy route, but it's still grounded in reality. It was dark. Like, why is Superman so dark?
You know,
yes, Superman special. Superman's supposed to be truth, justice, the American ways. I think Christopher and Zack Snyder certainly delivered a very different dark Superman. I appreciated Man of Steel, but then what he did with the character in Batman versus Superman, I couldn't get behind that. Making Superman
the idea of franchises is pretty sad because it seems from our discussion tonight that the more movies that they make, the lesser in quality they become. And it really is, these movie studios, especially these, Disney, they're basically printing money, and they don't really care about originality or story. And
James Bond has a lot, and I think James Bond has survived, and they haven't always been trendsetters. They've been following along with, I mean, you look at Moonraker, that was a ripoff of Star Wars. You mentioned Live and Let Die, that was a ripoff of 70s Shaft, blaxploitation type movies. Yeah. So I Another Day had clear influence from The Matrix, the Quantum of Solace, Daniel Craig's have certain influence from the Jason Bourne movies. So they all kind of have, they've never really been the trendsetters since the Sean Connery era, but they still manage to survive and add their own spin to whatever's, popular at the time. So I think the James Bond series is the one exception to that rule, or maybe I'm just I just love.
I think with the James Bond films, they definitely go up and down in terms of quality, and they do kind of mostly reflect the temperature, the climate that we're currently living in. And that's
like every other Daniel Craig one is good.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, James Bond has the luxury of, as long as you just have James Bond in the movie, you can tweak it. You don't have to follow that much. It's not like there's a consistent continuity in every James Bond movie that has so many movies we had. So they got flexibility to kind of reboot, adjust, or tweak as needed.
But there obviously are certain elements of a James Bond movie that are basically staples.
I guess it's the difference between just generic franchise and universe. Universe,
I had a complaint about the Daniel Craig movies. It was that the first couple, because they were prequels, he didn't have the signature car. He didn't have the Q and the gadgets. He didn't have those things because he was just becoming a 00 agent. So
wasn't there an Aston Martin in the first one in Casino Royale? I think there was an Aston Martin. There was an Aston Martin in
Skyfall. I think
there might have been. I know there definitely wasn't Skyfall. In Skyfall, they brought back the Aston Martin from Goldfinger into that. Yeah. So they're but still, it didn't have the opening logo, the gun barrel. It didn't have they switch things up a little bit. And if you're looking like me with a checklist of, okay, what do I have to see in a James Bond movie? And they didn't have those things. I was like, hey, what gives? But they still managed to impress me and entertain me. And I was, very surprised by that. You know what's another long-running series that I have an affection from? There've been 9 theatrical movies by my count, and a TV series and an animated series. No one talks about that. I got Star Trek on here in my article, but Planet of the Apes.
Okay.
The original Planet of the Apes, absolute classic. And it spawned so many good movies afterwards and so many bad movies. So that's one that I think not enough people talk about when we talk about.
I can only focus on Tim Burton's train wreck from
That was the
2000.
worst. One of the worst.
It was
Which
terrible.
still, Rick Baker's makeup effects and your boy Danny Elfman, his score.
Yep.
I
Very,
can't hate
very
it too
impressive.
much. But yeah, that he invented a word with that. He invented a reimagining because everyone hated it so much. They said that's not a remake, and he goes, "Well, no, I didn't intend to remake it. It's a reimagining of Planet of the Apes." So that gave future people to rip off other people's ideas and call it a reimagining. So good for Tim Burton, I guess.
Charlton Heston's in that one too. Isn't he? Remember, he's like
Yes.
he's an ape in the movie.
They flipped it. He said "damn dirty humans" instead
Damn
of
Dirty Humans.
humans,
Yeah. That's probably my favorite
just
part of the movie.
Paul
I do love the
Giamatti.
original one a lot, though.
Paul
Oh, God, it was
Giamatti.
terrible.
Charlton Heston was kind of spoofing on his own personal persona, where he was an NRA spokesman, and he was saying how guns are bad in that movie. Another one people don't talk about that much, which, believe it or not, I think is probably one of the most successful and best non-comic book franchises this century, Mission Impossible. They've got a seventh one on the way. I think that's because Tom Cruise's ego and Tom Cruise's Scientology obsession overshadow how good some of these action movies really are.
I gotta admit, I enjoy them, but they all blur together to one.
That's
movie.
also a fact.
Yeah.
I can't pinpoint and say that was 2, that was 3,
I
etc.
think it became
It's just
Tom
Tom
Cruise
Cruise's
has
different
become, as he's gotten
hairstyles,
older,
running and jumping.
it's become Tom Cruise show, and he can never do anything wrong.
Yeah.
He has to save the day. He has to be the ultimate hero. So, but the action scenes and the stunts and the seamless CGI, the way they blend the real stunts with the CGI in those movies, that really manages to impress me. So it's consistent. I always walk out of a Mission Impossible movie impressed, but I don't look forward to going to see it as much as I should.
I think I wanted to walk out on Mission Impossible 2, to be honest with you.
The older ones were tough.
I liked it because I like John Woo's
Yeah.
style, but I completely understand. I know a lot of people hate that movie, and I understand why. And it doesn't hold up on repeat viewings
It's
as
awful.
much, but I enjoyed it when I was in high school. I saw it.
The final battle, it was just them like roundhouse kicking each other for like 10
On a
minutes.
beach. Yeah.
Yeah, remember
dogs.
that? That was so
The-
odd.
on the bikes.
So you
But that
tell
was
me
the one that had like when he's like rock climbing for real. They have like the helicopter and he's doing all his own stunts with no wires.
Limp
Yeah,
Bizkit in the
losing their
background.
minds.
The opening
Yeah, I think
scene,
he broke his foot on a stunt, and they had to shut down production for 6
Yeah.
months.
Did you see the video of that?
I couldn't
His
believe how
foot
good
was-
Fallout was. I couldn't believe how good his last Mission Impossible movie was.
Yeah, it was really good.
Another trilogy that often gets
Mhm.
overlooked. Have you guys seen the Before trilogy? Before Sunrise,
Oh,
Before
yeah.
Sunset,
Of course.
Before Midnight.
Richard Linklater.
Those three, flawless. Richard Linklater, Ethan Hawke, Julie Delpy, about a couple.
Oh, I do know
coming
that one.
forward
Very
again 10 years later,
bittersweet,
and then
dramedy.
catching up
Yeah.
with the couple 10 years later.
Mhm.
You gotta see. They're all on Criterion DVD.
Oh, yeah.
You gotta see them or Blu-ray. They're each one I think gets better because as the characters get older and
Right.
more mature, the movies do with them, and they're
Yeah,
just
yeah.
such great dialogue-driven movies.
It's a trilogy, basically. That they start from their 20s, they go up to their 40s,
Mhm.
and basically it's
Yep,
how their
correct. So
relationships
and I hope
evolve.
to make another one a few years from now. There's a fourth stage to this.
You don't think they said all that they wanted to? You don't think?
I give Richard Linklater. You know what, he with Boyhood and with those movies and with
Boyhood.
going all the way back to Slacker and Dazed and Confused, or a movie like Waking Life. He always manages to surprise me, so I give him a lot of credit. And I know you liked his movie, The Last Flag Flying, a lot.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
Yeah, he's someone that I respect him tremendously, and what he can do with dialogue and the camera and his characters, he really makes them resonate with you. And so those three,
Yeah.
especially Before Midnight, I thought that was one of the best of the previous.
I
trilogy.
think they're on Netflix. Well, they were, anyways.
I don't know.
Oh, no.
They're on the
I know
Criterion.
Boyhood is.
You get
Oh, they're
that.
Criterions? I like those Criterions.
Yeah, they're all three of them are Criterion now. So,
So
All right,
I
guys,
had
let's
a.
Okay.
I was saying, I just thought it was a quick thing. I had a trilogy here. You guys tell me if it's a real one or just a marketing ploy. But I'll admit, I liked all three. The Cornetto Trilogy.
Oh,
what?
my
Is that
God.
a true franchise?
The Three Flavors Cornetto. Yes. The Simon Pegg, Nick Frost, Edgar Wright trilogy. Jason?
Yes.
Hot Fuzz and Shaun of the Dead.
Yep.
Sure, count that as a
Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, and The World's End. I think.
World's End.
World's End.
Yeah.
At-
I
Atlas?
especially prefer
The World's
Shaun
End.
of the Dead. I think is the best.
Shaun of the Dead.
Sure, that counts as a
Oh,
trilogy.
yeah. it really
I like
shifts the genre and makes it really, really interesting and original. And I really love what they did with Shaun of the Dead.
I think Shaun of the Dead, one of the best zombie movies ever made. That's not George Romero. So yeah, I think
I'd agree with that. Yeah.
And I love
That's good. It's true.
And
They're three very distinct movies. You know, I mean, I know we have the same characters, but they're not even. I'm sorry, same actors. It's one where I just enjoy them all. It's a great time to shut the brain off and just be entertained. But is it really a trilogy? I mean, in the grand scheme of things, we're basically connecting everything through a dessert.
As much as it's as much a trilogy as the Tarantino movies are a universe, or I've read that the all the Pixar movies are part of the same universe. So I mean, if that's a universe, then so does the Simon Pegg, Nick Frost trilogy.
All right.
Those kind of remind me of like those old school, like the Abbott and Costello and like the Three Stooges. Like it's just the same people in different scenarios, but they're also playing different characters, the same versions of those characters.
Like Charlie Chaplin and the Tramp,
the
Marx Brothers. The Marx Brothers were all basically the same kind of characters, just different scenarios, and they're all funny. So
But in terms of horror, guys, what would you say is your favorite horror franchise, Kevin?
I know mine.
I'm this year, but Scream was my favorite.
Scream.
That's part of the reason why I asked it.
George Romero's zombie.
Yeah, I'd go with Scream, but I'll admit I'm a wuss when it comes to horror. I'm like the worst person to ask that question.
Dawn of the Dead is
my favorite.
But Night of the Living Dead, Dawn of the Dead, Day of the Dead. I love Land of the Dead. Then his last two, Diary of the Dead and Survival of the Dead, I didn't like as much. But
I love the Evil Dead trilogy myself. How about you guys?
Dawn of the Dead remake I liked.
Oh, Dawn of the Dead.
Yes, Zack Snyder directed that as well. I think that's one of Zack Snyder's best films, that and Watchmen. I think
that was really good.
What about the Evil Dead guys?
Oh, I love the Evil Dead. I mentioned that as well. Yeah, especially Evil Dead 2 being my favorite. And I like the TV show Ash vs. Evil Dead.
It's sort of Evil Dead is sort of a remake of the first one. It's very weird what they
And that's the only one that when I said must see, I put Evil Dead 2. You absolutely must see that. And then you can skip. I did not like the Evil Dead remake directed by Fede Alvarez. And I think maybe because I saw it in the wake of Cabin in the Woods, which to me was such a, oh my God, revisionist, genre-defining horror movie, that by the time I got to another cliched Cabin in the Woods horror movie, it didn't have the humor that the other ones had. It went for, a different feeling. It went for blood and guts and gore and absolute dread and terror. And I didn't, feel that either.
And you know what?
Kevin,
at the end.
It's sad because when they remade Evil Dead, that was also around the same time they remade Friday the 13th and The Thing, and it was like a period of like 4 years where they were remaking all these great.
The Thing remake was kind of a prequel. The Friday the 13th remake I like, and a lot of people rip that one apart. I thought the most recent Friday the 13th was pretty good, but
it's the best one of all the remakes, especially up until
Zombies Halloween remakes came out around then too.
Those were okay. Yeah, those were decent. Yeah, I get that. Kevin, have you come up with any good horror franchises yet?
That was good.
What was that?
Have you come up with any horror movies yet? Any franchises?
Well, that's the thing. I told you, I'm a wuss. So it's either Scream or I'll start watching some Freddy movies because at the end of it, if you get to the end of the franchise, they're comedies.
Yeah.
I'm more comfortable with the comedy.
Then you would like Evil Dead. You would
like
Evil Dead 2. You would like Army of Darkness. Those to me are just
Army of Darkness is fantastic.
Army of Darkness is it's got like some Three Stooges type humor in it too, which is amazing.
Yeah, very slapstick.
It's a fun one. Yeah.
What is it like? He's like, that was just pillow talk, baby.
Yeah. Give me some sugar, baby.
I know what I'll tell you what I did like about the remake of The Evil Dead is the end of the credits. They just this Bruce Campbell. He just is groovy. And the movie just ends. Random.
That was in the remake, yeah, because that was, and it was supposed to, allegedly, I read Bruce Campbell was supposed to be in the sequel, but instead Sam Raimi decided to move to do the TV show instead, which I liked the TV show. I thought it was a nice conclusion. I'm okay if that's the end of The Evil Dead for good. And that's what that once again makes the remake just stand out as it doesn't belong. It doesn't feel
I'll tell you, I have to give the series another try because I watched like the first 2 episodes and it kind of.
My girlfriend felt the same way, and she loves the Evil Dead movies. And I'm like, how do you not like this? She's like, she just couldn't get into it. I thought it was the perfect what I wanted from an Evil Dead TV show. It delivered.
Right. Well, I wanted an
It was
Evil
good.
Dead 4 where they were like in the future, which was the director's cut of Army of Darkness, and that's how they had that cliffhanger at the very end. Do you remember that, Jason?
Yes, and that would have been interesting. But I mean, I actually prefer the theatrical cut to the Army of Darkness.
Oh, yeah.
Than the director's cut. It's a little happier, I guess. And it has Bridget Fonda.
And maybe so. I guess Ash versus the Evil Dead is kind of an extension of that S-Mart final scene, right?
Yes, it is. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Did you ever see or hear about the? They came out with a movie. I don't know who did it, but like this small town thinks like Bruce Campbell's in this small town, and they think he's Ash from the
My
Evil
name
Dead.
is Bruce or something.
And he was Bruce. Yeah, that was it.
Hi, my name is Bruce. I think.
Hi, my name is Bruce. That's it. Oh man. Oh, you should watch it if you like.
I like Bruce Campbell. I think he has the best part in the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies for the most part. Is the usher and the ring announcer.
Randall, where's the book?
Yeah,
the book.
Yeah, you have the book.
What the
Bruce Campbell,
Necronomicon, the book.
The B-list. Yeah, his chins could speak or whatever.
Oh,
Don't
I
you
don't
want
know
it?
where it
Oh,
is. It's somewhere. But I got a really grainy, bad quality photo of him when I went to see the Evil Dead the musical in 2007.
I wish I could have.
Oh,
I didn't.
That was
that was
awesome.
bad.
That was a great show. No, it was fun.
Oh, it was
as
great.
hell. Yeah, if you sat in the front row, they gave you like these ponchos where they called the splatter zone, where you get splattered with blood.
Seeing Gallagher live in 1987.
Yeah. Basically.
Awesome. I always wanted to see Gallagher, and that sounds like I would have liked that.
Perfect, but I think it's only in Canada right now, the show, and I'm really hoping they bring it back in the future to New York. It was just really fun, and Bruce Campbell was there. He was in the audience. So I got a photo with him after the show. It was pretty awesome.
They made
the last Comic-Con I went to,
as well.
I bought a DVD copy of it, but never watched it.
Oh, you did? Oh, that's cool.
When I was at Comic-Con, I saw that somebody had like a bootleg version of the show. I guess someone recorded it. I was like, what the hell? I'll buy it. I think you're right. Like, I don't think it was around here. It's in Canada.
I think you could find it on YouTube as well.
Oh, see, that's probably easier.
Well, Phillip, since you have the T-shirt on, what's your favorite Friday the 13th?
Friday the 13th, Part 3, when he gets his mask. That's my favorite one.
6
That's
for
scary
Jason
one, yeah.
which has a James Bond reference at the beginning.
Yeah, I like Part 7, A New Blood.
That was my least favorite, and I rewatched 7 a few weeks ago actually, and it's Carrie mixed with it has a good Hodder is good and good makeup effects. I just wish I liked the movie more.
Portrayal of Jason
4 with
by
Crispin Glover
King Hodder.
doing I love Untitled Chapter.
4 also has what's his name? Corey Feldman.
Corey Feldman was in 4 and 5. Yes, they
and 5,
Tommy Jarvis. Yeah,
his character goes for a couple movies, I think.
He was in 4, 5, and 6. Yeah.
Jason Takes Manhattan has a soft spot in my heart, actually.
Oh yeah, you always talk about that one.
I love it.
It's one of my least favorite ones. But the scene where he just punches that guy's head off.
Square? Yeah. It's so cool.
Can we all talk about which is probably the worst one? Would we agree?
Jason X.
Yeah. It has some good death.
Again, when he like freezes that girl's head, and like each one has great kills.
Chops her off. Yeah, I remember. That stuck with me too. Cool. How about
I'm going to save horror franchises for another day, for another article, maybe closer to Halloween. Best horror.
Okay. Well, this will be a little.
I can talk about horror all day. I love horror.
Yeah. Hey, will we still be in quarantine by Halloween?
I hope not.
Depends what city you're in.
Too.
Yeah.
Good question.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's true.
But
I just saw a whole thing with theaters. Like they're saying, like theaters are like in Universal is getting a whole thing. They don't know if people are gonna like once it's like the new normal. Like people are gonna go back to theaters now and risk their health.
Well, AMC and Universal now are not playing well with each other, right? Basically, AMC's not going to show any of their films moving forward.
Yeah. Well, we'll see if they resolve that. I think if it does go back to normal, then I think they'll rescind that. But otherwise, then Universal is going to keep doing what they did with Trolls World Tour. And they made money that way, so you can't blame them too much. And then AMC is going to, if it stays the way it is, which I hope it doesn't. Christopher Nolan should be everyone who loves the theater-going experience. He should be everyone's personal favorite hero right now because he's not moving Tenet. He wants it to come out. He's pushing hard for it. So, and I hope it's good, and I hope it gets people going back to the movies, even though it's not a franchise sequel or anything.
mean,
Christopher
I
great.
I respect them. I respect Nolan's passion, but it's just not realistic. I don't think it's in the cards.
We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens. July
I don't know.
17th. Until July 17th for them to get their acts together and to see if his plan comes to fruition. I hope it does. I hope it's great. He's one of my favorite directors. We mentioned the Batman movies, but also Inception, Memento.
Yeah.
I love his movies, so I really hope that this is, bringing people back to the theater and a good movie that people will want to see in the theater.
Yeah. And,
I like him. He's like a style. Not a lot of directors have styles anymore.
I know Disney released Onward on was that on Disney Plus, if I'm not mistaken?
Well, they released it theatrically,
that was
and then
my
Corona happened.
In the theater before this whole pandemic, came to reality, came to where when the theaters closed. So yeah, I wasn't crazy about Onward.
I didn't see it, but I've heard good things. I heard very emotional.
It's okay. It's.
Well, there you go. If you want to talk about franchise, Toy Story is probably Pixar's best.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, they unlike other sequels from Pixar, the Toy Story sequels are pretty consistently good. So
I mean, I seriously thought that it was just going to end at 3 because that was such a beautiful, sweet ending.
It was.
I feel
there's
like
more money to be made.
Should have been 3.
What
3 has a more satisfying ending than 4, I thought.
But 4 was still a good movie because I went in not wanting to like 4, and I appreciate it, but I still think 3 would have been the better conclusion. I'll agree with you.
Yeah. But 4's good. It's just 3 is more. 3 has a better for the story. Like she moves on to the next kid, and now they're with them. It's just a better. And now instead of now Woody and Buzz, they don't see each other anymore. Thanks.
Speaking of Disney,
we'll bring them back together for a 5th one if they make it. I mean, as long as Tim Allen and Tom Hanks are out there, and if they need the money.
What did you guys think of Incredibles 2? Right? I don't even remember the story too well. I just remember Bob Odenkirk's in it. He's sort of a villain.
What movie are you talking about?
Incredibles 2.
Incredibles.
It was okay. I liked it, but it's not really. Incredibles 1 to me was, at the time, I think, Pixar's best movie ever. I mean, that was Brad Bird is an incredible director, and that was a game changer for comic book movies and animated movies. But, so Incredibles 2 wasn't the game changer, but I enjoyed it. I had fun with it. I didn't love it. I wasn't expecting it.
I was expecting a lot more
from
for
10 years after the first one.
It was 15 years after the first one. And that's the best.
Still the best Fantastic Four franchise we'll get in a while.
Nice.
Fantastic
How
Four.
come they can make a good Fantastic Four movie?
I don't know. I'm really hoping
they can't make a good Hulk movie. The 70s, 80s Lou Ferrigno Hulk show was better than the movies that they made.
You didn't like Norton? I love Norton as
I did not like Ed Norton as Hulk.
It was okay. It was just okay compared to.
I like him as an actor. I didn't think it was a good movie. It wasn't his fault. It wasn't Tim Roth's fault.
Well, it might be Norton's fault. I thought he had a lot of creative control in that film.
The first Hulk, though, with Eric Bana, though, that was just a train wreck.
It was
just boring. It was you know what it was? It was Ang Lee making a superhero movie. It felt like an Ang Lee movie. He wasn't the right fit for that, but he was fresh off Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. He had the biggest hit of his career. They gave him the biggest budget of his career, and look what happened. I mean, it wasn't. It was a chemistry. It didn't mesh. Okay, it didn't mesh.
Even Danny Elfman's music saved it. Very sad.
Of course, you'd say that.
Yeah. But back to Batman. I think my favorite franchise, probably the first 2 Tim Burton films. I really, as a kid, I grew up.
Christopher Nolan films?
No. The first 2 Tim Burton Batman.
Would you say they're better than the Christopher Nolan films?
Ooh.
Probably not.
Because I think Michael Keaton's a better Bruce Wayne, but I don't know if they're better films.
Well, I'm very sentimental with the 1989 and 92 Batman movies. And, of course, Michael Keaton. I think he was a great Batman. Kind of a weak Bruce Wayne, I'll give you that.
I think he's a better Bruce Wayne than he is Batman.
Really? I thought Bale was a better
Think about how Christian Bale played Bruce Wayne. The first one, he was a playboy who didn't care. Second one, he was a playboy who didn't care. Third one, he's kind of like an old, hermit loner. So we didn't get to see the Bruce Wayne from Batman the Animated Series. We didn't get to really see any Bruce Wayne other than immature and then old and aloof.
Mhm.
So Michael Keaton was Bruce Wayne, and there was a mystery to him. There was a darkness in the scenes where he yells at Joker, in the scenes where he's with Vicky Vale. It's not all just like, look at me, I'm rich. There's something quirky and off about him, like a Kyle MacLachlan, Agent Cooper quality from Twin Peaks that I really, really liked in his performance. So I think he's a much better Bruce Wayne than he is a Batman. Christian
So I'll give you
is a better actor, but he's a better Bruce Wayne.
I'd give you a very politically, let's play nice type answer. Trilogy, Nolan, better movies, better superhero. I'll go with Tim Burton. I need that camp, and Burton still had a little bit of that camp.
It was more campy in Returns than in the first one.
Yeah, I was going to say it gets campier with Joel Schumacher. I think it's serious.
No, I need a light amount of camp. Schumacher was too much camp.
It was Burton. It was Burton.
I will say that Christian Bale's Bruce Wayne, because Christian Bale played it as it was like three roles. Like he was the real Bruce Wayne, then the public Bruce Wayne, and then there's Batman. And then that's like that wasn't the real Bruce. Like the real Bruce Wayne.
He missed the scripts didn't give him the opportunity to play Bruce Wayne the way Michael.
That's not that's how he
kind of a normal person. Yeah.
Like the Playboy was that's all characters, like character within the character. It was like.
But going back to I think the animated series is probably the best representation of the character.
You could argue that's the best joke.
Conroy.
Probably
overall,
is the best
that series was insanely good, even when they revamped it in '97. But Batman Beyond was pretty good too. But that's where I kind of lost it.
Batman: Mask of the Phantasm, one of the great underrated.
Love that movie. That movie still holds up.
Yes, it does.
That's the best. That's the best origin story of Batman ever told.
And you could see how it influenced Batman Begins with the kung fu and the karate in there, and the way he put the mask on looked so similar to the Bruce Wayne in Batman Begins and Batman Mask of the Phantasm.
You even have Joker before he was like the Joker in there.
It was good too. Yes.
It was such a great movie.
That's a time.
I think we'll talk about that. It's a great movie.
And the late great Shirley Walker did the score. She worked with Danny Elfman on the first Batman film. I think the second one as well. But they were colleagues, and she sort of, I don't know if she imitated his style and sound, but it did sound very similar.
She took the theme, that's for sure. She took the theme.
The theme is
when
different.
You're colleagues, it's an homage.
It was a collaboration. It was a total respect on both composers' parts. So that was a great time for film music. All right, guys. So we have a few minutes left. Is there anything we want to plug? Anything we want to mention, Kevin?
I've always got my website, panandslam.com. You could check out 10, 20 binge-worthy movie franchises if you are so inclined. All-star sports movies. I give the best sports movies of all time, the best summer blockbusters of all time, because we're not going to have a summer. We're not going to have a summer movie season, no blockbuster season. And right now I'm working on an article, the best summers at the movies from 1975 to present. What are the 10 best, which summers brought about the best movies? So that'll be coming up real soon, maybe later this week or early next week.
I'm going to say 84 better be somewhere in your top 5.
84 is in my top. I think it's in my top 3.
Okay.
I won't tell you if it's number 1 or what number 1 is, but it's 84 because that had Ghostbusters, that had Indiana Jones Temple of Doom, that had Red Dawn, and I know I'm forgetting other movies. 1980.
I think Gremlins came out that year.
Oh man, we didn't even mention Indiana Jones. Like real quick, guys, favorite Indiana Jones movie?
Oh,
Phillip.
The third one was Last Crusade.
Last Crusade. Yep.
That's my favorite one.
So much fun.
I'm sorry, but did you ever watch The Big Bang?
Yes.
Did you see the episode where they just pretty much just ruined the first one?
Raiders. She
Raiders.
ruined Raiders.
They just ruined it, and I'm like, no. Why did they do this? Basically, she said that Indiana Jones, if you take him out of this movie, everything still happens. The Nazis still find the Ark, and they still open it, and they all still die. Like he has nothing to do with the plot. I'm like, no.
But if Indiana Jones wasn't around during Temple of Doom, then all those kids would have starved and died, and that evil magician guy would have probably ruled the world by now. So I think
taking out people's hearts.
Yeah. He would have been like the next president. I don't know, or something.
Oh,
But,
hey. Commentary on Unger the Radar.
Right. Kevin, favorite Indiana Jones?
Crystal Skull, clearly. No, I'm kidding. No, definitely. It's got Last Crusade.
You know what?
Connery and him, that relationship.
Connery was great. Connery's what made Last Crusade, I think, work as well as it did, kind of tarnishing his childhood and the mystery behind Indiana Jones. That's why I still say Raiders of the Lost Ark #1 for me.
What a classic.
That's my favorite. But to me, the first three movies, all of them are outstanding. Great trilogy. Even though the second one feels very different in tone, I still think it's an awesome, excellent, fun adventure. The only one I could do without, obviously, is King Kong.
Well, you know what? I'm going to probably get a lot of crap for this, but I think Crystal Skull had some fun moments, like the motorcycle.
Spielberg and everybody, so.
Yeah.
The music was good.
Kids. Yeah, of course. Well, it was
good
for the
what's
kids.
her name was a good villain, Kate Blanchett.
Yeah.
She was good. She just wasn't given anything. Like,
no,
you can tell she could have done it, but they just wasn't given anything. I don't think any of them took it that seriously.
No.
George Lucas' writing.
John Hurt, Jim Broadbent, Ray Winstone, really good actors, but they weren't given. They didn't take it seriously. Or I thought Shia LaBeouf was terrible in that. And
It was. He was at the end of the
Monkeys.
Honey Boy and Peanut Butter Falcon. He's proven he can be a really good actor, but he was not.
John Hurt's in that movie.
John Hurt was in that, and John Hurt's a legendary actor. I mean, Alien. You mentioned the Alien franchise. Aliens.
We didn't even mention Alien. Okay.
Alien I have a mixed bag with Aliens.
The only one I could do without is Alien Covenant.
Yeah.
Alien 3, I wasn't thrilled with.
3, I wasn't thrilled with because it's a movie, but I give it credit for being different. It messed with our expectations. It was that's one of the darkest, bleakest movies.
Who directed 3? Someone big.
Fincher.
David Fincher.
He denounced it. David Fincher has since denounced it. He said control was taken away. He denounced it, and I've seen the producer's cut. It's a little different, but it's not, oh my god, different or that much better.
Yeah, I feel like everybody quotes from Aliens is from Aliens, the second one. And like he trying to make remakes from the first one, and everyone's like, "Stop! This is not as good."
No, they shouldn't touch it.
I think James Cameron did an excellent job with Aliens, making it different. Military
the first
movie,
two are so good.
Vietnam allegory. I think Aliens was fantastic, but Aliens, Ridley Scott's first one, is outstanding. And I love Prometheus. Other people make fun of me. I don't care. I love that movie. Did a lot for my imagination, the same way the first Alien did.
Gotcha. Yeah, Prometheus is alright. Aliens is my favorite, but Aliens 1, oh man, that's a creepy movie.
Oh, yeah. No one knew
what
to say. And they couldn't make a movie like that today because nothing really happens for the first hour. They go down to the ship, they bring the body back with the face hugger on it, and that's the end of the first hour. And
it's all in the first hour, and it's less than 2 hours long, the whole movie.
Exactly.
What's the calls like that? The Thing?
The Thing.
Like 35 minutes.
Nothing really happens, and then when it does, it's like, oh. The ish hit the fan.
You know what? Going back to George Lucas, since we mentioned Indiana Jones, we didn't even mention Star Wars, guys. So
I don't know if I can appreciate the whole franchise.
I call that my second favorite movie franchise, even though I really dislike the last one. But the first one, Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi, I mean, those three mean so much to our culture and our society and me personally. I mean, growing up, those were like my favorite movies. So I give them a lot of credit. I remember going to baseball games and having everything Star Wars and a Star Wars bobblehead and being decked out. No baseball, no May the 4th be with you. It was kind of sad.
No.
I watched The Mandalorian. That was good.
That revived so much. I thought it was great.
That brought me back because I really, really disliked The Last Jedi.
I liked The Last Jedi. I disliked the casino scene that felt like it was out of James Bond.
Yes.
But otherwise... If there was anything wrong with that movie, it was that they threw too much in to 2.5 hours, where by the time it was over, I'm like, what are they going to do with the third one? Like, Ren is alive. That's it. And then the third one, that was the only one that didn't feel like a singular vision. It felt like J.J. Abrams directed that with focus groups and just trying to appease fans and give them fan service. It had no heart to it.
It was undoing so much of 8.
Yeah, they did. They had to undo it, and they missed so much ground with character development in the second one.
Oh, yeah, and I would have liked to have seen more with Emperor Palpatine, not just the first 5 minutes and the last 5 minutes. Like, what really went on there? This whole, audience of dark creatures, people watching. They didn't do anything with it. They just had a fight, and that was it.
Apparently, there was like a tie-in comic just before they explained that. But if I got to read a comic before I'm seeing the movie, yeah.
Like this, people are talking about franchises and universe building. Just put it in the movie. Right. Make a good movie, so we don't need comic books.
Yeah, no, I agree on that.
Kevin, what's your top Star Wars film?
Empire. Hands down, it's always going to be Empire. I mean, to be honest, give me 4, 5, and 6. So Star Wars, Empire, Return of the Jedi. I could care less about 1, 2, and 3, and 7, 8, 9 didn't do it for me. I actually like, the original trilogy and what we just talked about, Mandalorian. I think revived a lot of my passion for the franchise.
Well, Mandalorian made me excited for the future because I feel like that's the future they're going to go with. For like Disney Plus, more TV show oriented.
Well, because Solo flopped also, so I think that they were going to do an Obi-Wan movie, they were going to do a Boba Fett movie. We're not going to see those now because Solo was incredibly unnecessary. But because that underperformed, I think they're going to go the safer route and just do series.
But speaking of unnecessary, I'll actually say Rogue One was. I enjoyed it, and I don't think it was necessary.
I didn't like Rogue One at all.
You didn't like Rogue One of the new was my favorite.
I was bored with it, and also I'm not one that this bothers, but they did it so much in Rogue One, so much pointing with the lights, with the laser, pointing with the gun, and talking and talking. And talking, and it tried to be dramatic. I know we were supposed to be sad and feel that tragic ending because it was all building towards that. I didn't feel anything by the time it got to the end. So since I didn't feel anything, I can't, in good faith, recommend that movie. I can't say I liked it.
I love the Vader scene at the end. That was, man, and like I saw that. I'm sorry.
No, I'm just saying. For me, it's obviously Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi is a close second because that for the early '80s, the visual effects that Lucas pulled off back then, phenomenal. And the first one, even I didn't really think that it was great, but A New Hope, it was a game changer in terms of the sci-fi, space opera. So I'm actually grateful for that movie.
It's like the mythology of our time. Okay, it's a modern mythology. Got religions based on it. What other movie could just throw away dialogue? About the Clone Wars has started so much. Getting people's imaginations thinking culturally. I mean, it was a groundbreaking, innovative, influential film.
Definitely.
I like Return of Jedi. Also,
I think they could have just stopped at Jedi, and I would have been happy.
I would have been very happy with that as well. I read the books. I read the books when I was late 80s, early 90s. I read Truce at Bacora. I read, all these different that are non-canonical, but I read those books and I loved them. Yeah. So.
All right, guys. So we're going to wrap up. I'm sorry, Jason. I cut you off during your plug.
Oh, that's okay. Because I mentioned, what did I mention? That cut you,
Pan and Slam, of course.
You could check out all my, because we started talking about 1984. Summer of 1984. You could check out all my articles, panandslam.com. Tons of articles, tons of content. If you're looking for something to stream, you're looking for ideas, or you're looking for, articles interested in movies, getting, opinions, getting incitement, it's a film forum. Please go on there, www.panandslam.com.
Kevin, anything?
Right now, anything I had planned is shelved, so I got nothing to plug, but always nice to talk about. Especially, I like going back and looking at some older films, so thanks for having me.
Cool, anytime, man. Mr. Buckley, anything plug?
No, I don't got nothing going on. Just, like you said, the quarantine and all that. But everybody watch Under the Radar, Unger the Radar, and Jason's stuff. I'm gonna look at your stuff, Jason.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that comment. Let me know you're there. You could follow me on Twitter, Jason K. Critic. Find me on Facebook, Jason Koenigsberg. I'm friends with Randy, so if you're friends with him, you could find me. But thank you. panandslam.com. Lots of content on there.
Nice. Awesome. Well, gentlemen, thank you so much for tonight. This was a great show as always. And I just hope all of you stay safe and healthy to you and your loved ones. So just be safe.
You too, guys. Take care. I'm going to have a duff right now. Take care.
No.
All right, guys. So this has been Under the Radar. I'm your host, Randy Unger. Thank you so much for watching. We'll talk to you next time. Take care.